Okay, so now we're going to talk about the Hollywood Reporter article, which you might have seen censored as a THR. Now, in October 2019, an Hollywood Reporter article was published, both online and in actual copies. It had a whole spread about BTS, including an exclusive interview with Seth Abramovich, who went especially to Korea to interview the guys there. He had lunch with them and had an hour-long interview to ask them questions and talk about it. Talk about their work, about everything they stand for. And ARMY as a whole, we're really looking forward to it. It's very rare that BTS gives anyone an exclusive interview, and not just those 5 minutes, who do you want to collab with questions and opportunities. So we were really looking for an in-depth interview about who BTS are and what makes it work and what's their process like and how they create music and what does the music mean to them and all of that. And what we got was a xenophobic article, and which was it wasn't just flagged as xenophobic by ARMY, but by other reporters as well. ARMY weren't alone in the backlash of this article. And despite that, it really, we used screenshots to pass it around. We didn't buy it. We didn't purchase it. I'm assuming it lost the Hollywood Reporter a lot of money, or at least Seth Abramovich a lot of money. Because think about it. It was an exclusive interview. There were so many photo ops of the guys there, and there were special pictures that you can get and posters and stuff. And it was supposed to be this really amazing thing, kind of like what Paper Magazine did. And instead, we completely boycotted this article. And there were a lot of reasons for that. We'll go very into detail about this article, and I will post a link to a thread with the screenshots of this article. So you don't need to give it clicks. If you want to read the actual article, you can. I recommend you do, again, as part of learning the history and learning what happened, one of the reasons why ARMY have so much issue and mistrust and question reporters and interviewers and journalists from all over the world is because of events like this. Okay, so yeah, Pragya, your thoughts on the topic?
Okay, so this was definitely the worst article I had ever read. I mean, literally the worst article. So first of all, BTS themselves, they were so much hyped up with this article. They legit retweeted the preview of this article, and we know that, okay, this was the thing that we were actually looking forward for the most. But everything was fine. We got that fishing for answers segment also from Hollywood Reporter on YouTube. It was fine. And then this article came out. Thankfully, I didn't click on it, because before me reading it, many armies had already put the screenshots over there, and I read it from the screenshots. First of all, about that person who actually took the interview, that person was full of himself somehow, like the amount of times he was referring to himself. I mean, are you so self-obsessed that are you giving your own interview? Or are you going for taking someone else's interview? Oh, I'm sitting with a pile of BTS books on my lap. What BTS books? There are no BTS books available.
Yeah, there are no BTS books. We just
there are no BTS
books that are official BTS books.
Yeah. So first of all, cross out from there, because there are no official BTS books, and Big Hit has clearly said this thing that we just want you all to ignore these things, and you're referring to those unofficial, some shitty books. And then he claims that he memorized the names of the members while his flight, while he was traveling. So what were you doing back then? You didn't have any overview of the people of whose interview you're gonna take. I mean, you don't have any work ethics.
Yeah, who studies for an interview like just a
studies
couple
for
of
interview.
hours, like on the flight over to that interview. Like, dude, you should know, like, you got an exclusive interview with the biggest band on the planet. Like, you should know and do your research beforehand. It's not something to be proud of.
Yeah. So many magazines and interviewers literally queue up over there to take an exclusive, just to pay for an exclusive interview from Big Hit and BTS. You're getting that opportunity. Why didn't you use that properly? He was so blinded by his own view of K-pop and his own view of about the Korean music industry that he didn't do any justice to his job from that. And it would be great if he would have been kicked out from his job by now.
Yeah.
So he came across, I read a few stances where he legit had put the words in the mouth of the members.
Yeah.
Like, for example, this one thing about quoting that RM said that we just don't want to be better, we want to be the best.
Wait, so I have the actual tweet, the actual quote.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go through the quotes a bit to talk
Yeah.
about just how much. Now, I just also, like, it's not just that he did, even before we're going into quotes, he used every chance he had to show like the normal Western side of stuff and to mock the Eastern Korean side. It starts, the first line of the article is how he's talking about the name of the restaurant, that it can be one of two options according to which translation program he uses. And he mocks the Korean language with it. And then, obviously, because that's the kind of person he is, like you said, he admits that he doesn't know who BTS is. He paints them as fake, and he paints himself as very self-centered. And then, obviously, when writing an article about BTS, you can't avoid discussing the dark side of K-pop.
Dark side.
And mentioning, he mentions in name the Chinese member suicide, and also quotes his suicide note. Like, who does that? Why would you do that in an article about BTS? It has no relations to it. BTS can barely be called K-pop. There's no reason to put the two in an article where you get exclusive insight into BTS. And I hate the narrative of the dark side of K-pop. Like, excuse me, the rock and roll world has a club called the 27 Club about musicians that die at the age of 27. Like, you want to talk about the dark side of K-pop? Mention that. What about the dark side of Hollywood? The dark side of every industry has a dark side. It's so ridiculous to talk about the dark side of Hollywood, the dark side of K-pop. Like, you have hundreds of thousands of, okay, maybe not hundreds of thousands, but thousands of people in the US in the music industry that overdose, that commit suicide, that fall into scandals and anything you can think of.
Yeah.
And you want to paint the dark side of K-pop as some Western outsider to try and make it seem like it's not what it is, and talk about all the terrible training camps and how it's manufactured, and you take different people and force them to be together. Dude, the Spice Girls were like that. Backstreet Boys were
One Direction like that.
Directions like that. It's not new. And yeah, okay, so they get a longer training period. And yes, there is a lot to talk about, the contracts and everything they've been through, and the whole way the media and the K-pop industry in Korea are slowly changing. But how dare you, as an outsider, make these accusations so lightly without doing any proper research beforehand? Like, you didn't even know the BTS member's name. No way did you read into the history of K-pop and the way the industry changed throughout the years. No way did he do that. Like,
himself.
I'm just so upset about it. It's like, how dare you? How entitled are you to do that and present yourself as if your way is the normalized way? You, as a Western, you're better than them. Like, oh. You're not fake.
He might have read all those dark side articles and those irrelevant videos he might have watched, and then just puked everything in that article. And for this being said, I really like to recommend Elliot's new video. He had this one video talking about the media covering the dark side of K-pop
Mm-hmm.
and how it is actually not like that. So Elliot came out with this new video.
I
It's
didn't
great,
see it yet. But
insightful. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about a little bit about the quotes, for example, so you'll
The
know
quotes, yeah.
exactly what we're talking about. And again, you might think this is an overreaction to the situation.
No,
I
it's
don't,
not.
but I don't. Other people didn't. But whatever works for you, you have your own. Each person has their own moral center and or in the threshold to getting upset about something. It's fine. Okay, so it starts with I admit to being a little fuzzy on some of the finer points of BTS history, like where they came from, why they are so appealing to so many millions, or even what BTS stands for. That's not the finer points of BTS's history. That's pretty major point. That's like it's not trivial. It's not knowing where they came from. It's not. It's the basic of all basics. So yeah, so that there's he talked about their sales and how they sold out stadiums, and he says the Ticketmaster's servers even crashed and they sold out 300,000 seats, average price $450 each ticket. Now, I didn't do the math myself. I find it very questionable that the average price came to be $452 per ticket.
No.
Considering that it doesn't make sense to me personally, but I'm pretty sure 425 is more than how much the VIP ticket actually costs. So, but I didn't do the math. Okay, and then here he quotes RM. Obviously, like all reporters, he uses their stage names. So here he quotes RM. We have to consider ourselves not just better, and then he put in parentheses, than other K-pop acts, but the best. When we're out there on that stage, we're there to conquer. We think we're the ones. Now, I'm sorry, but knowing Namjoon, there is no way that he said we have to consider ourselves not just better than other K-pop acts, but the best. There's just no way. That's not them. That's not BTS.
No way on this earth. He would say this. No way.
No way.
That's just not BTS.
Yeah. And then there's a comparing. He says again in quote: songs are filtered through a distinctly Korean, which is to say squeaky clean prism. K-pop are Hunger Games, and I'm sorry, but I don't think you can call BTS's music squeaky clean. There's the industry had developed a great many unreasonable practices. It's a quote from Hitman Bank. So he says that, and then he calls him chubby and bespectacled. In photos, he looks nothing like a K-pop. He looks like a kinder, Korean, gentler Simon Cowell. And again, a quote: as I run my own company, I have tried my best to present a long-term vision that can contribute to the improvement of the K-pop industry without compromising these practices. So he says that, he quotes that, and then Seth, because he has to add his own input, he adds to that obviously the only reason though that Bang did this is because he wants to create a supergroup to rule them all.
Rule them all.
Yeah.
To rule them all.
Yeah.
Okay.
It sounds like Sauron from Lord of the Rings. Sauron. One ring to rule them all.
And the way he called Bigot Entertainment as factory and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
What does he actually want to imply? I really don't know. Did he just had some kind of fight with his wife or something that he wanted to he was so angry and just poured his anger in, just like a drama queen or something like that. Those middle-aged women who are always gossiping stuff, spicing it up. It's exactly what he has done over here. So this is so weird and so bad.
Yeah, he really wanted to push the whole fake narrative, the Asian are robots narrative, that they don't have any sort of critical thinking. They do what they're told. They go into these K-pop camps. It kind of reminds me, like a part of this segment is also like talking about different TV shows that bitched about BTS or misrepresented BTS. And there was a person that will forever in the fandom be known as Yellow Shirt Guy, who claimed that there is a K-pop school and K-pop university and the K-pop board who decide stuff. And when people go to K-pop school, that they do all those training and the special like the training dancing and speech and singing and all that. And he really, this Seth person that wrote the THR article, really wanted to push that agenda that they're fake. He even says like that. He asked them, and I think that's like the dumbest question I've ever seen. He asked, and this is a direct quote, when asked if they have any reservation about reassuming their tour in America during such a political fraud period, a switch seemed to flip in RM's brain. BTS doesn't talk, and this is a quote from RM, BTS doesn't talk about big issues like war or peace or global poverty or starvation or things like that. He says, shooting down the question. There are a lot of issues both in the United States and in Korea. I think the message is loving yourself as well as looking at the small things. So this is like Namjoon saying, we're here for the fans. We don't do politics like that. We don't do international politics and decide based on that which countries we're going to perform. Every country they perform in has issues. Saying they shouldn't perform in the US because this was in regards to Trump. Because of the leadership the US has is crazy. Where do you, like, the US is the biggest, it's the biggest place to perform at. It's where it's the biggest music market out there. Like, to not perform there because Trump is president, how is that relevant to BTS? They are there for their fans. They want to perform for their fans. It's just such a stupid question to ask, and to say like a switch has been flipped, like, oh, now I'm gonna say this thing that someone told me to say because I'm a robot and can't think for myself. Yeah, he also like had all these very weird misconceptions. He said maknae is a K-pop term. Obviously he said that girlfriends aren't allowed because Big Hit, this was right after the thing with Jungkook with the tattoos where he flew and there was a picture of him hugging a girl, and Big Hit said they're gonna sue everyone that posted that picture, and they said it because it was someone invading his privacy. They didn't do that because people claimed it was his girlfriend. It was because people were invading his privacy. But of course, to someone like him, to Seth, it was obviously because it was his girlfriend and they want to hide it. He also says that Bang allows them a longer leash than most K-pop managers. They are free to improv emotional monologues at shows. It's so nice of them that they are free to improv a little bit. And he did the most Western thing I think a person can do, and gave them little pins of the Hollywood sign that he bought at LAX, as if they don't go to LAX 10 times a year at least. So obviously no questions about their music or their artistry or anything substantial about their actual work was written in this article. It was just one pile of garbage on top of another pile of garbage with some extra pile of xenophobia on top. So yeah.
Grammy's interview was the best interview in point of view with their where they actually talked about their music, where they were actually curious to know more about their artistry, about their music. That was the only interview I saw actually, pointing out to that and actually relevant to their music. Rest of them all are just very gibberish.
No, you can always get like Zach Sang, who does pretty good interviews, and
I'm like talking about these longer interviews, like more
in depth,
more in depth.
Yeah, definitely. The Grammy interview from the Grammy Museum interview was amazing. And also the guy that interviewed them, he talked about how BTS, they do storytelling through an album, and he talked about how The Who used to do it, and I really recommend. The man has a point. The Who, their Tommy album is amazing. So if you wanna hear something, it's very like rock and stuff. Yeah. So, yeah, I agree. Like the Grammy interview was excellent.
Yeah. This particular interview was just pushing this agenda of portraying K-pop to be Korean industry to be something like that so what to say, like
Yeah.
so hard going and just what to say,
Yeah.
like so hard going and uh
Yeah.
I mean just ruling over these people and it was just pushing that agenda, like the K-pop idols are forced to go through strict diets and strict rules, and then plastic surgeries. I mean, not all of them go through plastic surgeries. People have this misconception that every K-pop idol might have gone through, some
Yeah.
plastic surgery or something. I mean, no, not everyone goes through that.
Yeah.
So
It's not like a mandatory thing. You want to be a K-pop idol, go do double eyelid or do all these.
yeah,
It's like,
exactly. I mean, this was such a waste of time article. I don't know why this guy wasted that precious one of BTS.
yeah. And then exactly. And then like if that wasn't enough, like the article, we saw the article in October 19, and as Army, we were very upset about it. Other journalists also very upset about it. They were like, why didn't we get the opportunity to interview BTS? We would have done a better job. And a lot of people came out against this article, and Army didn't buy it. Army didn't buy the issue of the Hollywood Reporter with the BTS article, and I'm positive they thought they were gonna sell out of it. I wouldn't be surprised if they decided to print extra because of it. Like Army didn't buy. So what happened was a month later, in November 2019, Seth, I guess that's when the numbers came through. Like that's when he found out just how bad his article was, because after the article came out, he didn't say anything. Like it was silent. There was no backlash. No one targeted him. No one talked to him. No one, like people didn't come after him on Twitter. He didn't talk to anyone on Twitter. Just like people were angry about the article. Other reporters were angry about the article. People didn't buy it. That was it. There wasn't any backlash against the actual person who wrote it. But then in November 19, for some reason, he decided to tweet about it. And he mocked Army. He said that he had to explain to people who BTS are, because 99.99% of the population doesn't know who BTS is, which A, he didn't explain who BTS are in the article, and B, he said in the article that they had millions upon millions of fans. So I don't know how that comes into 99.99%. And and he started really going at it with Army, and he wrote some stuff, and then he deleted some screenshots because it made him look worse. Army then found out he was fired from a different magazine before that because he made some racist comments. Basically, they put it all out there, and then it sort of like went crazy, and the classic called Army about some little girls, and yeah, it was a whole like November 2019. He really went like crazy all of a sudden.
Why would THR send such an unprofessional reporter? Like, didn't he have didn't they have his back kind of like what exactly how his articles were? Have you ever read any of the other articles that he wrote, like for any other interviews of other artists or something? Or was he just exclusively selected for BTS?
I really don't know.
Because I really to see this, that for other artists also, these kind of articles are only written when you talk about one particular scandal or one particular when you talk to one particular artist, you are asking about several other thousands of other artists?
Yeah.
I seriously want to know.
Yeah, I have no idea why they sent him out of all the people they could have sent. Why he was the one who got that chance, and why he decided to squander it in that way.
All in all, it's just so ridiculous to see people actually, as you said, that these media people, these media outlets, they again just riding for clout and bullshit. They don't support BTS. They're just doing their job, and they don't care if they are getting any backlash. They'll just do what they want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what can you do? So that's that. Now, yeah. So that's the Hollywood Reporter, and that's what happened with it. So now you know the full story. Like I said, I will link the screenshot tweet, a tweet with the screenshots there, so you can read it. And I think in general, when talking about like reporters and interviews that they do, it's very important to not like, obviously, like, yeah, now people are very wary of the Hollywood Reporter and everything they tweet about BTS. So people would not readily retweet stuff and comment on stuff that they do. But I think before even doing that, the most important thing with reporters is to check which reporter is signed on the article, which is why with Billboard, like, you can avoid Tamar and Jeff, but you don't have to avoid everyone else. So yeah, so check the person that writes the article, decide if they fit your narrative, if it's someone you want to support or not. If you want, go ahead. If you don't. These are the people that we mentioned today are people that ARMY as a whole, or a lot of armies, have issues with. But obviously we're all our own persons, our own people. Decide for yourself. Always decide for yourself. Like, always check. Even now I gave you quotes. Read it yourself. Decide for yourself where you stand. Remember also, like, obviously the situation itself, like some of these you were attacked from a few sides at once. It was very overwhelming. Like, obviously, if you haven't experienced it yourself, it's very hard to imagine the whole situation. But like when we talked about fan wars, like, we weren't there back then. So to think like that you constantly get attacked from people, it's very easy to say, oh, just block and ignore. But it's something that's very hard to do, and it still sometimes hurts you or gets to you, and when it comes from all sides, it's very overwhelming. So it's very important to take everything in the context of how the situation was back when it happened, but definitely get your own conclusion on it, make your own conclusion, decide for yourself. Critical thinking is always should be applied to everything in life. Okay, and again, we're just two armies talking.
Yeah. To this state, I see people backing up Tamar and Jeff. So I guess probably they might they might be having some other opinions. For them, they think that armies are overreacting and all. So it's fine.
Yeah,
It's totally fine. It's up to you. What you consider right, just do that. Yeah, but just keep on catering the people alongside with you. Like, if you have some facts, present them with those facts, so that the other people could actually, analyze those things and come up with their own opinions and conclusions.
Definitely.